different experience, though. That's
Yeah.
very much so, hey? Yeah, this is like vacation.
I know.
You got your girlfriend, your son's out.
We're loving life.
Like, come on.
I was literally just saying, I can't believe I get paid for this.
Yeah, I know.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Swiftsure International Yacht Race. It is the 80th, and this race goes back to 1930. Back then, only 6 boats, 98 at the start line today. I'm Jeff King, and so happy to have you join us live on CHEK News and CHEK Plus as well. Dale Gann beside me, the Commodore with the Royal Victoria Yacht Club, and a beautiful morning, maybe not the winds that we wanted, but a great community event, the Lions pancake breakfast, and a nice turnout here this morning at Clover Point. Dale?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a great welcome. Our visiting yachts were welcome to Victoria in the fashion that Victoria is so famous for. The Inner Harbor, they got to experience our restaurants and see our town. They came out to the yacht club and had a prize giving and a skipper's meeting. So they've got around the city, and now they're out on the race start line.
Yeah, and the sails are up, and we're hoping for a spinnaker start, as you mentioned earlier. So we're hoping for that, and just talk about the excitement heading into this morning's race.
This is one of the largest events in the whole Pacific Northwest, and these sailors look forward to it every year. We have 22 boats that came up from Oregon, that raced from Oregon to Victoria to sail here in Swiftsure. So yeah, they're excited. They're excited to finally be on the start line. And now the strategy and the tactics come into play. Yeah. How can they get to the right end of that start line right at the moment of the 9:05 gun on the Royal Canadian Navy vessel?
Yeah, so the Swiftsure Classic is the race that we're looking for first of all, and that's going to get going here promptly at 9:05, or at least we hope. But the storied history of Swiftsure is absolutely amazing. As mentioned, it's the 80th, so a huge celebration there. And here's a look back at some of the history of the beautiful Swiftsure International Yacht Race.
Swiftsure Bank Race, which was the original race. This is the 80th running. The event's been running for probably close to 85 years if you include the Second World War and some of the breaks and COVID and that sort of thing.
Well, Steve was a hockey player, and he always said winning Swiftsure would be like winning the Stanley Cup. And if you were a sailor and a racer, you wanted to win the Swiftsure race.
The biggest time for participants was probably in the late 70s, early 80s. I mean, Swiftsure and the races in those days would attract probably in the range of 350 to 400 boats.
Before we won, every name on the Swiftsure trophy had either been from Seattle or Vancouver or, somewhere else in the United States. And we were the first Royal Victoria Yacht Club boat to ever win it.
We have a 100-year history at least of cooperation and racing against our American friends south of the border. I don't think we're going to let the last 100 days get in the way of the 100 years of a relationship. So we have a lot of friends down there that we've raced against for years.
We're neighbors. We're good neighbors. We've raced against the Americans and the Canadians for years.
Most of the people we know, I mean, we're friends. We don't think of ourselves being Canadian, American.
But we're just glad that we can all race together and we can all be friends. It's Victoria's race. People that never had a boat, they all know about Swiftsure.
It's got a great reputation and people want to win it.
Yeah, what a great history here of the Swiftsure International Yacht Race. And Dale, we are seconds away from the start of the Swiftsure Classic.
That's right, Jeff, and I think I just heard a horn over my left ear,
What?
and I can feel some wind in my ears as well, so I'm pretty excited.
Oh, I love that. Well, let's get this thing underway. Talk about what's going on at the start line right now.
Absolutely. So we've had our first start to the Classic, and I'm looking in the screen, and I think I can see vessels across the line. Almost. One. We started, right? Okay. Well, so we had one vessel. So we had one vessel start, and she was over early. You can look out there and see how she's had to come back across the line and establish herself on this side of the line before she crosses again.
Okay. But the rest of the race continues? Is that sort of how this goes?
Yeah, so the rest of them are, if they're over and they're clear over, off they go. But if you're over early, you got to turn around and go back. And in light winds and this tide condition, it's difficult for them.
So let's talk about the first little bit here. And, of course, everyone talks about race rocks, and the race to get to race rocks is real.
Oh, yeah, it's really real. As you can see, we've got boats up that have crossed the line with their upwind beating sails, and then you can see down the line we've got two boats that have their spinnaker up. So I think that's the Andrews 77 that's in the Swiftsure Classic with the big blue spinnaker, and so they're on a tight reach and getting that big sail out and using it to get across the line. It is a challenge to get to the bank. To Swiftsure rocks. The tide's turning and coming against them, but there is some back eddies that the faster boats can play to get along the shore and along Albert Head to get to race rocks.
Okay, so we've got the maps up right now. Maybe walk us through the Swiftsure and what people are going to go through over the next several hours.
Yeah, so first leg is the race to the race rocks. So they're going to have this challenging wind conditions that are light, competing change of tide, so the tide is against them, except we have currents and back eddies in which they can establish if they can get along the Clover Point area, along the Albert Head area, and make their way to race rocks and hopefully get through there before the real strong flood begins.
Talk about the boats that are out there this year. Unfortunately, last year's winner is not back in the race, but talk about the 7 boats and perhaps the favorite heading into this morning's action.
Well, it's an interesting class. We've got a very large one with the blue chute out there, the Andrews 77. She's in the Classic, and all the way to you can see just crossing the line with the white sails there, that there's 2-masted schooner, and that's out of Port Townsend. And we had a good chat with them on the dock last night, and they're in it to win it. So we'll see what happens.
Talk about the crews. How many crew members on each boat? And I'm sure many of them are seasoned, but there's probably a few that are in their first ever Swiftsure Classic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you guys did a piece of a young family, and there's a female skipper that's really young and her young crew, and they're out there today for their first Swiftsure. But there's this young female skipper. She's at the helm, and she's got a young crew, and so they're pretty jazzed up, and they seem really excited to be here.
Talk about nerves. There are a lot of nerves. It's like any sport. You're nervous at that start line, but maybe then you get a little bit into the race and those calm down. But I'm sure there's some nerves heading into the start line. Probably. Some happiness that you've crossed successfully, but talk about the nerves heading into this race and especially at the beginning.
Okay, so as you can see right now, these boats here are trying to get up to the start line for the next start, and they're dealing with the tide and the light winds and the rocks and the shallowness.
Right.
And so the intensity and the energy is high aboard right now.
Right.
Until they get through the start and get into clean air and on their own on attack by themselves, everything's really fired up. Like they're focused, and they have to work really well because you can see there's not a lot of water in here. These folks are favoring this end, and the crews are pretty fired up right now.
Yeah, well, let's get a better view of what's going on the water. We'll throw it out to from Tourism Victoria, Keith Wells on the water. Wellsy, how's it looking out there?
Dale, Jeff, thank you very much for having me out here on the Strait of Juan de Fuca at the start line. Keith Wells from Destination Greater Victoria and the Greater Victoria Sport Tourism Commission. Happy to be sponsoring the event this year. Happy you, I was out here anyway, so happy to grab a mic and help out. We're right near HMCS Wolf, right at the start line, and I'll tell you, some of the big sleds are just cutting through right now, including Mach 2. Have a look, Chris, over that way if you could. Look at this site. And what a beautiful thing is it just crosses the start line, heading all the way down to Race Rocks, of course, and then it'll hang a right and begin its long trek out through the Strait of Juan de Fuca, out into the Pacific. Again, 138 nautical miles for this Lightship Classic, about 250 kilometers, and it's a beautiful thing. And I'll tell you, it's a lot more calm compared to last year when Chris and I were out here, and Trey from Prince of Wales, thanks for having us again. It was 25 to 30 knots, choppy seas, 4 to 5 feet, and here it's calm. It's gentle. It's going to make for a longer night for these big monohulls as they head all the way out on the Lightship Classic. And you know what I like about this in particular for the viewers? Maybe people don't realize the significance of this race, but almost, 100 years ago, 1930, when it first started, this race still has a great reputation up and down the West Coast. We've got sailors from all over the West Coast in the U.S. here, our friends from the States. Look at it. It's a beautiful thing, the start of the race. It's going to be a long afternoon and evening for them heading into the tide, and we'll see how things go, but that's the start so far.
Good stuff. Thanks very much, Keith. And we are underway. The Swiftsure Classic is underway right now. Cape Flattery is the next race to get going, but we've had an issue, Dale.
Yeah, so that first start, some of the boats were successful. As we talked about, one was over early and had to turn around. But what's materially happened is the other boats in that fleet are having the difficulty to get across the line. So the race committee hasn't been able to start the Cape Flattery race, which caused a postponement, to wait until those boats cross the line and clear the start-finish.
Okay, so does that back everything up?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so we got the wind map up right now. Let's talk about winds this morning, and it's at 5 kilometers an hour right now, but we're hoping for more, my friend.
Oh, yeah, we're hoping for more, and right now we would love to see more of that east wind to get those folks up and get those big spinnakers up, because in these light airs with a big sail like a spinnaker, the colorful sails we see on the screen, that really helps the boat speed and helps the boats get clear of here.
So, wind is one thing, but let's talk about tides. And those that are lay people to yacht racing, they don't want to, they look for the winds, of course, but let's talk about tides and how important a role they play.
So tides are huge. As we sit here at Clover Point, the tide has begun to flood, which means it comes down the Strait of Juan de Fuca and up in through the Gulf Islands and fills in, and it's going to do that until about noon today.
Okay.
So the sailboats are sailing against that. So it's like pedaling a bike uphill. But when it turns, all of a sudden your boat, the wind and everything is behind you, and it certainly helps the momentum and the spirit on board.
Oh, I bet it does. So it's interesting. You and I were speaking earlier about, the tides play such an important role. When you get out to Race Rocks, some people actually anchor so that they actually don't come backwards against the tide.
Absolutely. It's surprising to think that you would anchor. It's allowed in the racing rules because it allows you to maintain the position you have achieved. As long as you don't use it to propel you forward, you're not under protest. But it's a critical step, and some boats have done very well by dropping a hook and just waiting. The wind fills in, the tide changes, and off they go.
Wow. Well, you know what? We don't do this broadcast and have this great coverage of the race without great sponsors, and that goes out to Bouchard Gardens, Prince of Wales, the Royal Victoria Yacht Club, Greater Victoria Harbour Authority, the Royal Canadian Navy, who were just pleased to have back as part of the race, and Tourism Victoria. And Cape Flattery race is being delayed right now, but let's do a little preview and what we can expect out of that, Dale.
So that's our largest fleet today. So there's about 70 vessels that are going to be positioning themselves on the line to cross this line. They're going to Cape Flattery, so all the way out the Strait of Juan de Fuca. So it's a very challenging overnight race. But right now, that group of 70 is waiting for that race committee to allow them to come to the start line. So the folks on Clover Point, those watching at home, are going to see the largest fleet approach this line very soon, and it'll be really impactful.
All right, we're going to pull up the course map right now and walk us through that, Dale.
All right, so the Cape Flattery race?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're here at Clover Point. So the sailors today are going to try to get across that line, 70 boats, and head out towards Race Rocks. They're going to hug around Point Albert to stay out of the tide, try to sneak through Race Rocks, maybe anchor. At noon, the tide will change and push them out the strait, and off they go for the afternoon sail and the evening sail. And
why is that the most popular race? Why is that have the most boats?
Yeah, it's the length of the course. I think the skippers really like.
Okay.
And also the Swiftsure Bank is just one further step out into the ocean.
Right.
So when it's really light, that makes it very challenging. But when it's really windy, you're out on the edge of the Pacific.
Wow.
You're out there.
Okay, yeah. I would not be good at that, to be quite honest with you. Have you done that course before yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And so some years it can be extremely rough, the sea state, and sometimes you have a lot of fog. And so it is a challenge. Like all three races are a challenge, and that's why these skippers come here. They love the challenge. So there's all this tactical challenge here. There's the tactical challenge at Race Rocks. There's the tactical challenge of sailing through the night with the shipping lanes and the containers that are all out there. And then rounding marks, they have a whole challenge to get around the mark and what the wind and the sea conditions is at the rounding mark, and then make their way to finish at Ogden Point for Victoria to watch.
So it's one thing, to have a clean start, which we didn't actually have. One boat had to go back in the Swiftsure Classic. Something completely different for 70 boats to cross the start line. Is there a lot of false starts? Or are there going to be a lot of boats that are going to have to go back and restart?
Yeah, absolutely. So what the race committee will do is they'll look down that line, and if there's too many, they'll have a general recall, which will send the whole fleet back and start the sequence again. So hopefully today, those sailors will be on the money right at the number at the time when the gun goes, and not over early. Because for the sailors and for the race committee, it's nice to have a clean start and get the sailors going.
70 boats.
70 boats.
Yeah, I mean, that's something else, and everyone's jockeying for it. Is it an inside position? Is that what you want to be? Do you want to be closer to shore now?
Well, so there's two angles. There's what's the current and the tide doing.
Okay.
That'll decide what side of the line you're on, but also what's the wind doing. So if there's more wind further out, you want to be the farthest windward boat.
Okay.
If there's preferential tide and current, you'll be at that end. So you'll see this fleet. This fleet will really demonstrate it because you're seeing 70 sails. You're going to either see what the skippers have chose. Some will be taking a lane that's clear air, because again, you get out there and you get amongst all those sailboats and you don't have clean air where the wind isn't impacted by a boat ahead of you. That can really delay and impact your ability to sail that boat. So clean air, the best place on the line with the current in consideration. So there's many tactical parts going on here, plus maneuvering the boat.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now on those boats.
Yeah, and it's funny, for those that have sailed and the mariners and people that have watched this race for a lot of years. But, of course, there's a lot of people watching our coverage right now that just see a bunch of sailboats out there. They're not too sure. So the folks waiting for the second or the third race and the fourth race to begin, are they just trying to stay out of the way right now?
Yeah, they got to stay out of the way. But tactically, they have to stay out of the way, but still maintain being close enough to the line so that they have a chance to get to the line when the start happens. Otherwise, they'll drift too far behind, and that'll be a disadvantage. So, yeah, we have a great group of seasoned sailors out there, but we have a lot of young ones too.
Right.
It's a sport that draws people from the youngest age of 4-year-olds in little opti dinghies all the way through to being able to race in this race, and it's a lifelong sport. And today we have young female skippers and young female crew and a young male crew out there all going out in their first challenge in the Swiftsure.
Yeah, how exciting. I mean, how exciting for those young people, and how great for racing and for the Swiftsure International Yacht Race. And, you know, I can said off the beginning, and I'll say it again, we're so proud at CHEK to be able to have live coverage here today. And Mary Griffin, our great reporter, was out in the Inner Harbor yesterday checking in on some of the boats. And here's a story with Mary Griffin that we ran on CHEK last night.
It's the largest yacht race of its kind on the West Coast, with 98 boats participating in this year's Swiftsure. Participation is down from previous years, but despite political tensions, there are plenty of boats here from south of the border, most just happy to be here.
I was not worried about getting into Canada. I'm a little anxious about getting back.
Many aboard these boats are veterans of the Swiftsure, and many boats are multi-generational.
I've been up here, I think, 5 times, but my husband up there on the mast has been doing this since he was a kid. And his father did it for many years before that, so they're veterans. We've got one crew member on here, Josh. Josh, how many have you done?
This will be 19.
He's done 19 Swiftsures.
And how old are you?
2. Plus 1.
Yeah. 3-year-old Morgan and her 4-year-old brother Jack are the race's youngest crew members.
Yep, they were up here last year.
Aboard the jaded yacht, Rod Hearn and Chris Phoenix don't count the years racing at Swiftsure, but decades.
Oh, it's just a great race. I mean, I think that there's lots of things that are great about this race. You know, most races include like some tactics, some strategy, but this includes like navigation and endurance. And knowing the lay of the land. If you know the lay of the land, you can have a huge advantage, and so we do pretty well now.
Any race has its veterans, and the Swiftsure also has its newcomers.
I've only gone boating 3 times now, so I've been practicing with them for the past few weekends, and so yeah, I'm excited. I'm super excited to be here, and it's going to be awesome.
She's not the only first-timer aboard the Wingate yacht. Skipper Abby Shamp will be at the helm for the first time. She's only one of a handful of female skippers. Her dad is aboard to lend a hand if needed.
I'm really excited about it, and it'll be fun, and there's not that many young women skippering exactly, so we thought it'd be cool.
What the Wingate crew lack in experience, they more than make up for with enthusiasm.
It's super exciting.
It's really, really fun, and of course everybody's so friendly and lovely.
Down there.
Hi.
The Swiftsure race kicks off Saturday morning at 9 a.m. with the best view for watching at Clover Point. The length of the races, as always, will be wind dependent.
Well, great back there by Mariner Mary Griffin of CHEK News, and the Cape Flattery race just about to go again. The views are just amazing for sure. There's Dale Gann, the Commodore currently with the Royal Victoria Yacht Club, and Stephanie Bacon joins us right now, a past Commodore. And Stephanie, we're going to chat to you in a second because you've got some big stuff going on as well as far as your role with Canada's America's Cup team. But Dale, we're just about to get going here on the Flattery race. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, you can just see over our shoulders. Look at that great bunch of sails all just trying to get up to the start line. We've got 2 minutes approximately to the start, and they've obviously decided that the wind and the current are favorable at that end of the pin. And you talked about tension on board and talked about focus.
Yeah.
Look at out there. They're in a small little area with a lot of sails and a lot of hulls.
I bet. So we'll bring Stephanie Bacon in right now. And Stephanie, you've been in this race before and a former Commodore. Talk about the excitement out there right now. I mean, 70 boats at the start line. There's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of jockeying for position.
Yes, absolutely. It's one of the most tense times of the race. You definitely don't want to be fouling anybody,
Right.
And you don't want to be over the line early,
Yeah.
especially right now with the current, the way that it's pushing against you. Perhaps at a knot when you might only be able to get 2 knots or 3 knots of speed. So it's a very critical time, and you also have to have clear air. Clear air is critical. If you're buried, as you can see right now on the line, we have a ton of boats all together. They're all fighting for clear air and being able to get off to that tiny little bit of wind that's off there. So that's their main goal. Don't be over early and get to clear air.
Yeah, Dale, I feel a breeze.
I do.
feel a bit of a breeze right now.
You're starting to learn that. You feel it over your ear, and it's like a really great
exactly.
feeling. It's like so exciting.
Yeah, if I wasn't a prairie guy, I'd get out there and give this a try myself. So we are just moments away from the start.
Oh, no, I think, yes, we are very close, if not, have we started? It's hard to see on this line. 2 over early, we have started. Thank you. So, here we go.
All
the
right.
Cape Flattery 80th Swiftsure has begun.
Okay, so 2 over, does that mean that everyone else is fine now to clear and there'll be no restart?
That's right. That's right. But those 2 boats that are over early, as you can look out on the screen and look over here at Clover Point, can you imagine turning around and getting back across the line and then finding a lane to get back over? It's difficult, as Stephanie was saying.
Yeah,
very difficult.
Stephanie, talk about the adrenaline right now going through the crews. I mean, there's experienced crews, there's people in this race for the first time, but I don't think it matters whether you're seasoned or you're a rookie. I'm sure there's a lot of adrenaline and a lot of excitement as you cross that start line.
It's intense.
Yeah, I bet.
No question.
Yeah.
And you're also looking at, making sure nobody else is going to foul you. It's definitely excitement. And there might be a lot of people praying for wind. So if everybody can pray for wind right now,
okay,
I
let's
think
all do that.
Yeah, if we can all do that, it'll really help out the racers today. That current is going to come in like gangbusters. So positioning yourself to where you're going to not be adversely affected by that current is also, so you're thinking of a million things at once. And I think that's what gets the energy and the nervousness up, is have we made the right decision? Are we in the right spot? Looking around at all of the things that are happening. So there's a lot to think about.
Yeah, I bet. Ed Watson, my former colleague at CHEK, and a great member here of the Swiftsure Committee, reminds me that if you're down here at Clover Point, you can go to swiftsure.org to watch our coverage as well. We've got drone shots. We've got some a boat out there as well with Keith Wells. So we got some great shots that you perhaps will not see down here at Clover Point. So swiftsure.org, you can jump on your iPhone right now and see some spectacular shots. And Stephanie, let's talk about exciting times for you right now, because you're on Team Canada. You're on the board for the women's and the youth program for the America's Cup.
That's correct.
Yeah,
yes.
Tell us about that role.
Well, it was super exciting for Canada to be on the start line in Barcelona for the last America's Cup, which was last year in October, and to do so well. So we had a fantastic youth team, fantastic women's team, and we're gearing up right now. They've just made the announcement. It's going to be in Naples.
Oh,
Italy,
nice.
For the next
well, good for you.
America's Cup. So we're very excited. The board is in full go mode. We're doing our engagements right now with sponsors, and it's going to be a very exciting program this year. So, it's going to happen in 2027.
Right.
So we've got a couple of years to plan and get the team, solidified and trained. So it's a big program, and it is very exciting for Canada.
Yeah, talk about that youth program and, how those people are selected, and, is sailing alive and well in our country?
It's better than ever. It's better than it's ever been. We have our Canada Sail GP team, which is North Star Canada. And I don't know if you've watched Sail GP racing.
I have.
Oh, it is
amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, right.
I recommend everybody to go to YouTube and watch those races. And North Star Canada has been on the podium winning the Sail GP. So I think that shows you how our athletes have been developing over time. So, and of course, we have a woman on the boat, Annie Hagar, who's a Canadian. And so we're really promoting women and youth. And we also are wanting to partner with We Can Foil, which is another Canadian organization that's getting youth into foiling. So it's big.
Yeah.
It's good.
Well, great. Well, I hope Naples is okay for you. I hope you're able to handle that okay.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to that.
I bet. Well, thanks for stopping by and chatting with us, and enjoy the rest of the race.
Okay, thanks for having me.
There's Stephanie Bacon, the former Commodore of the Royal Victoria Yacht Club and part of the America's Cup team for Canada as well. And speaking of Wellsy, Keith Wells out on the water. Let's throw it out to Keith.
Thanks, guys. Keith out here with the fleet on the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and a great start on the Cape Flattery. And as you mentioned, the bulk of the fleet is out here. We've got a scatter action in the background there, one of the U.S. boats. And you mentioned a couple that got out early, Smoke and Zulu. You can see them on the front end, but no sign of them turning around. I'm not sure if they were out early or not, or if they're just ignoring that. But they're on the front end, and the rest of the fleet behind here. And again, you mentioned 70 boats heading out towards Race Rock, and then they're going to hang a right. And a great start here. And the wind isn't bad, 5 to 8 knots perhaps, but glassy smooth, heading out. You were talking about Sail GP just for a minute, and my job at Destination Greater Victoria with the Greater Victoria Sport Tourism Commission, we continue looking at events that could come here, and there's always talk about the possibility of a Sail GP event coming to Victoria. There's a window in 2027. There are some local people who are talking about this possibility. And, you know, when you talk about the legs that we have and the experience we have from a yachting standpoint, Swiftsure, almost 100 years old, but wouldn't it be amazing to think of, you know, those incredible catamarans out here on the Salish Sea and the Strait of Juan de Fuca competing Victoria on a world stage? Something that could happen in the future. But for now, Cape Flattery underway, our second of the races today, and a great start so far.
Thanks very much, Keith. And we have two races underway, the third about to get going. The Juan de Fuca is coming up. But prior to that, Dale, let's talk about what's going out on the water right now as far as the Swiftsure Classic and the Cape Flattery, because it is going strong.
Yeah, we got the boats across the line, and as you can look out, look, Jeff, look at the view today.
Yeah, not bad.
Not bad, right? So they finally got across the line. They're finding themselves into clean air. And the crew's on the windward side, sitting on that weather side, trying to keep the boat flat to go as fast as possible. And looking at that mountain range, like, it is kind of spectacular.
Yeah, it never gets old, does it? That's for sure. Do you think that the winds are a lot better right now than maybe the skippers had anticipated at the start?
Well, they watch the weather models, and I would just say that they're all very thankful that they're moving, and they're moving faster than the tide, and they're making their way to Race Rocks.
Right.
That's a great feeling.
Right.
Making nautical miles under the keel.
Well,
so we are going to the next and the final race that's going out, the Juan de Fuca. You can look over to the Navy vessel. Again, that fleet looks like they've chosen to pick the Navy vessel as the preferred start area. There's probably more wind. There's less current probably, and you can see that they're basically having a chance to run with their spinnakers. So they're reaching spinnakers, and they're trying to make their way to a new start here.
So are they given a time? Is it like 60 seconds to the start, and you try and get a running start at it for the layperson that's wondering, you know, how this thing really gets going?
Yeah, there's a 10-minute countdown,
Okay.
so they get down to 1 minute. So you want to get really, really close to that line in clean air with that 60 seconds to go. And you want you to get your boat going fast at that time.
Right.
You don't want to be sort of going slow and trying to build momentum. You want to come into that start sequence at that minute to go with as much speed and propulsion as possible so you can maneuver, especially in light winds. You want boat speed, and you don't want to lose it. If you lose the boat speed and you're not moving clear and forward, it makes it really difficult, and it's disadvantaged for sure.
Is that a double-edged sword, though? You know, getting that speed to the start line and not getting over prior to the starting gun.
Yeah, well, you saw it today.
Right.
You saw how difficult it was in that big fleet to be the 2 boats over early and find their way back through those boats and then find clean air so that you're not affected by all those sails, because that start for Cape Flattery was a sea of sails, and that would really impact this very light wind that they're trying to find for their own boat.
How much does experience come into play when it comes to that?
A ton. So on board, the skipper will be so focused on driving the boat as best as he or she is capable. The tactician will be looking around at every single element, the current, the wind, the vessels that are there, and looking ahead and talking to the skipper. Where's clean air? Where's there stronger air? Should we throw a tack in and go out and get into cleaner air? So that tactician on board has such an incredible role to talk to the skipper, and then the crew are all making the sails in the best shape and form they can to allow the boat to go as fast as possible. So it's a team effort.
Yeah. So talk about the communication on each boat, because how do they communicate between the skipper, the tactician, the crew? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a fine art. Every skipper has a certain way, but the skipper's in charge of the vessel and he's calling the shots, but he's getting information from his crew. So because it's light air, you'll have crew on the windward side, and they're looking to the windward side of the boat looking for ideas. You may have crew on the low side, and they're looking for boats below so they don't get into a collision, or looking at favorable conditions. So everyone is putting inputs in verbally back to the captain, the skipper, that's steering the boat up the race course.
Yeah, there must be some arguments every now and then, but let's get into the map right now. Let's get into the Juan de Fuca map and describe the course.
Yeah, so they're the same as everyone this morning. They'll head out to the race rocks. Again, as I said, all these racers will try to favor their way along the Ogden Point, past Petter Bay, out through race rocks, and then depending on the tide, because the tide's flooding, they'll choose whether they go on the Canadian shore or the American shore to go up to Callum Bay, round Callum Bay. In a perfect world, the wind is blowing west, which is blowing down the Strait of Juan de Fuca, so they'll be able to put their big colorful spinnakers out and sail quickly home. That's the magic possible.
Yeah. Talk about how it goes as far as rest and nutrition and hydration and everything that has to go on. I know you're excited at the start, but I mean, these are long races, and speak to that when you sort of take those breaks and you have to rest a little bit and get some nourishment.
Yeah, some of these vessels will just endurance it and stay on. They won't have a watch system like we do when we cross an ocean, where we would have a 4-hour on and 4-hour off.
Right.
In this, a lot of the vessels will just endurance it, and especially the big fast ones, they'll just stay up and work that boat every minute possible till the finish line. However, it is still an overnight race,
right?
And sometimes some of the boats don't finish until the cutoff is Sunday night at midnight.
Okay.
So people will take a little bit of a break, but again, it's weather dependent. Last year was pretty windy at this time going out there. We just had Stephanie Bacon on, and they were the winner overall for Swiftsure, and it was a tough night. It blew all night long, and so trying to find an hour of sleep in a bunk on a boat that's going over waves and flashing down.
Not for me, man.
No, it's not for everyone. So yeah, people will. They'll take their nutrition breaks, they'll take their breaks, but right now it's all hands on deck to make that boat work.
Well, I mean, here we are, the 80th Swiftsure International Yacht Race, and, just speak from the Royal Victoria Yacht Club's perspective, how proud you are of this event, and really, it is the premier racing event, certainly on the West Coast.
Yeah, I mean, to say that you've had an organized event for 80 years, it can't happen without two main ingredients. The sailors that have the love of the competition and the adventure, as well as thousands and thousands and thousands of volunteers. So many volunteers have put so much time and energy into putting this race together, because the club is the host, but there's all driven by volunteers that are passionate about supporting this race. And so over the 80 years, as we talked at the top of the show, 1930 was just 6 boats that left, right? And they left from Port Townsend, Washington, sailed to the Swiftsure Bank, which was the only race at the time, rounded the Swiftsure Bank, and came back to Victoria. And since then, year after year, the race has gone on, and we're so proud to have 80 years.
Yeah, 100%. Keith Wells on the water right now. We'll throw it out to Keith Wells. And the colors of the sails, Keith, there's something else.
Yuka hasn't started yet. If you're thinking about the Juan de Fuca here, and again that heading out, heading into the wind a little bit, or heading into the tide a bit, and you go past Nia Bay, which is kind of directly across from Port Renfrew, and then further up, and that Clallam Bay, which is directly across from Sombrio Beach, essentially, and then cut back. That's kind of might help you with the lay of the land here, lay of the sea. But they're waiting to start this race, a third of the morning. And I got to tell you, again, it's very nice so far.
Thanks very much, Keith. We have 2 races underway and 2 to go here at the 80th running of the Swiftsure International Yacht Race. We're going to look at camera because, Bob, you're so good looking. They want to see you on camera. Bob Bentham joins us right now along with Dale Gann. And, Bob, you were instrumental on the inshore race courses. And, maybe look back at that time of your life.
Well, the inshore race, we started that because there was so many local boats that didn't want to go beyond race rocks out there and get into the rough water or long overnight races. So we created it, and it's developed into a very popular race.
Yeah.
We first started it with some classics, wood boats, older style boats, got them out of on the water. And it's developed into a really popular race now. I think we have probably 20 some odd boats in that race this year.
Yeah. What makes it so popular?
Just the fun to get out and sail and get your boat on the water. And who better than to go out there and have some fun? And it's great. It's a great sport.
Is that a good way to dip your toes into this racing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, there's lots of, as Dale said earlier, there's some young families out here, and it's great to get people out on the water that have never done it before. I think the Yacht Club has a program where they have a boat where they can go down and use the local boat in the club and get out in Cabra Bay.
Yeah, how exciting. I'm sure somewhat nerve-wracking, and I'm sure the adrenaline's running for those boats that are getting ready to race there. You've had a look. Where Dale and I don't have the vantage point. You were out looking at the leaders. Maybe you can explain what's going on as far as the 2 races that are underway.
Well, in the Swiftsure Classic race, there was 2 or 3 boats got really good starts. Sir Isaac was one of them, and they've gone straight across the waterfront, headed towards Albert Head. And I've just heard a little report that there is a fresh breeze coming up off of the Albert Head side, which is good. Anybody has done this race before will probably head to that shore because there's a back eddy along the Albert Head shore all the way up to Race Rocks, and that will get them out to the race and out of the flood tide. So, there's good pressure over there. I see the Cape Flattery boats are hot on their heels, and they'll be doing the same thing, same strategy.
Yeah, what are you seeing?
Well, I'm seeing some spinnakers, and it's really nice, and I see some boats making their way, and again, back to this beautiful day to see, look, this is probably a little more than we expected, this little freshening breeze right now, and so this is a good start to see them getting across the line, making their way out to the Olympic Mountains there and towards Race Rocks is fabulous, and anytime we can see spinnakers, it's perfect for the people ashore here. and the crew loves it too because they're going fast.
I bet they do. Bob, you've been an integral part of this race, and as we mentioned, the inshore portion. Do you remember 1984 very well?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Okay, well, let's look back at a pack and your involvement that goes back to 1984.
They're spraying and sanding and scraping hulls at the Royal Victoria Yacht Club and in Seattle and Vancouver, where other boats will come for the Swiftsure and Juan de Fuca races that start from Victoria Saturday, May 26th. 406 boats entered this year, down slightly from 419 a year ago. It's still one of the biggest sailing races in the world.
Previously, until the year before last, it was just the Swiftsure and Juan de Fuca. And last year, as an experiment, they put one short race in of about 11 miles. This year, 84, we're having two short, about 11-mile races and one race about 20 miles, which take place before the Swiftsure, which is at the end of the week and the weekend. These races will be held at the beginning of the week. And they will have prizes, and they will be a race entity in their own right.
Swiftsure was first conceived by a group sitting around a table at the Vancouver Yacht Club who decided to race around the Swiftsure lightship and back off the mouth of Juan de Fuca. In the early 1920s, the first Swiftsure race had just 6 entries. We're told to watch Zamazan, Charlie, and Meridian this year, their favorites, but you can't call a 136 nautical mile race beforehand. Endless Summer holds the Swiftsure record, completing the course in just over 23 hours. With a stiff wind and a tall spinnaker, maybe that'll be beaten this year.
Yeah, Bob Bentham, an integral part of Swiftsure and that pack from 1984. I was in grade 11. I don't know where you were in 1984, Dale.
Well, I was I was actually about the same age. But in 1990, I sailed to Hawaii from here, which was fun. So.
Yeah, and you've done this race many times as well. The Juan de Fuca is underway. What do you see out there?
The Juan de Fuca is underway. It's a great race, and it's one of the races that a lot of people do first. It allows them to do a first experience of an overnight race, which is new because a lot of those boats will do local racing around the buoys, around their yacht clubs, and around their sailing clubs. So this gives these younger crews and very experienced crews that choose to do it year after year an overnight race. So that's different. That's a different challenge. Again, we're going up the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Juan de Fuca can get windy and bumpy, get a little spicy.
Right.
The Juan de Fuca has a sea state that is not like your local waters. You get the Pacific swell coming down the Strait of Juan de Fuca, so that enters a whole new ball of wax. You get deep sea freighters, 2 northbound and southbound lanes coming back and forth at 25 and 30 knots. So there's a lot of elements to it that they get to experience just like the bigger races. So the start has happened, and you can see really an amazing picture here today for everyone that's down in Clover Point to look at the vessels. We've got a combination of guys and gals sailing upwind with their upwind sails, and you can see some folks with their spinnakers, and the Navy's out there from the start, and they've got photographers on board, and I'm sure they got an amazing shots of those vessels up close with their shots. So it's been a good start.
Yeah, for sure. One race to go. It's the inshore race right now. We're going to pull up the map. We may not get the start here live, but maybe describe the inshore race to our viewers.
Yeah, the inshore race is another great one. It is an opportunity for young families and young crew to have a family day on the water or a very competitive race on the water.
Right.
They start at the same start, so they feel like they're part of the Swiftsure. They are part of Swiftsure. They'll have a choice of 2 courses where they'll sail basically over to Albert Head area and then back around Trial Island here off the point, and then finish in Cabra Bay. And we'll have a barbecue for them.
Love it.
We'll award them some prizes, and they'll go home to sleep in a warm bed tonight. Unlike everyone else, is going to be either up all night in wet gear or maybe getting a wink of sleep sometime in the next couple of.
Yeah, I bet. But I mean, what a great introduction, and then you know that they're gonna they'll have that thirst to get into other races in the future. For one last time before the end of our broadcast, we're going to throw it out on the water to Keith Wells.
Guys, Dale, you were right. It is freshening. There's no doubt about that. And it's actually turned out to be a perfect start to the morning of racing. Another yacht double time going past us there, but in the distance you can see the majority of the fleet heading out. A decent wind, maybe 5 to 8 knots. Great start as it turns out. We thought maybe this morning it would be a little bit too light, but this is freshening. They're heading out. And that's it for me here this morning. Thanks to CHEK for broadcasting this. Again, people should realize that this is really one of our marquee events that we have here in Greater Victoria every spring. We've got the Highland Games that has been around for more than a century. We've got this event that started 95 years ago. And a couple of really terrific events that we should celebrate. And the visiting sailors, the spectacle, really great to get Swiftsure 2025 underway this morning.
Thanks very much to Keith Wells out on the water. I don't think I'd be good on the water, Dale, to be quite honest with you. I'm a prairie boy. I mean, I love to watch it from the shore, and I hope you're enjoying our coverage as well. We've got about 2 minutes left. 3 of the 4 races are underway. I mean, really, from what we saw at 7 this morning when I came down, the winds have picked up. Really a successful morning overall as far as the starts of the first 3 races go.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to see. Swiftsure has a magic to it. It has a magic of the challenge, but it has a magic to just participate in it, and the excitement builds, and then you get to that start line. And so for the sailors to cross the line, I'm so thankful that, again, on the 80th, we've been doing this since 1930, that they've once again crossed the line and have begun a new adventure and experience in their lives with wind against current, which is, as we've said all morning, challenging.
Yeah, 6 boats back in 1930, the 80th, and 98 boats this year. We touched on it off the beginning, but talk about what this race and this community event means to Victoria and the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, so for the racing community, it is the premier event for the racing community. They sail all year, and then this one is the premier race. For the community, again, as you know, Victoria has these signature events. And Swiftsure is a signature event. Having it happen here 80 years is a signature event, and it brings the public out. But as we talked earlier, sailing is not just for people with very fancy, expensive sailboats.
Right.
It's kids that can get in a dinghy. Our yacht club teaches 600 youth a year. Our sailing director's here doing a display this morning. It's a lifelong sport.
Right.
That they can take many paths in it. It can be just recreational, or it can be competition, or as Stephanie says, it can be a woman's America's Cup on an AC-40.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you look at your family alone, your great-grandfather, your grandfather, yourself, your son Connor's involved as well. It's a great lifelong sport, brings families together for sure. And we're not doing this broadcast without the help of some great sponsors, including Bouchard Gardens, Prince of Wales, the Royal Victoria Yacht Club, the Greater Victoria Harbour Authority. So happy to have the Royal Canadian Navy back as part of this, and Tourism Victoria. Dale, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you.
Always, Jeff. Thank
and on
you.
behalf of Dale Gann and myself, we will have some more coverage tonight on CHEK News at 5, and tomorrow as well on CHEK News at 5 as we watch the winners come in. A successful start to the 80th Swiftsure International Yacht Race. Thanks for joining us.